This is Untangled with me, Stuart from the Wool Patch, and he's not here. No, he's finishing off his break, aren't you, Jimmy? So let's just click this little button and have a giggle. There he is. I have heard from him. We've kept in contact, obviously, and he's done his test knit and he's done all his other important things that he's had, and he's now got space. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play you an episode that we recorded that we have in the bank for whenever we need it. So I'm going to drop that in this week. And then if you're following along live with us in current time, whether you listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or you watch us on YouTube, then a new episode will be next week. But I understand that we all follow and listen to podcasts at different times. So actually, for those viewers and listeners, it may make no difference because we might have recorded loads by the time you listen to this one. I tell you what, though, it's unbelievably hot here in the UK. It's the hottest day of the year so far, 31 degrees. Whew, I am sweating it. So please excuse the attire. Jimmy's there, obviously cool as cucumber in his knit. He can't wait to be back with you all next week with more answers to your knitting and sometimes crochet questions. So we would like them. We've got some still, but we're always welcoming more. So if you go down to the bottom of this description, click expand it, you'll see a simple link there that takes you to a Google form where you can just leave us your name. You can leave us a made-up name if you like, and what your knitting question is. And then you've got Jimmy's expertise as a knitwear designer, and you've got my expertise as a yarn shop owner and dealing with lots of yarns. So I think we've got a lot of bases covered. Let us know your questions and your crochet questions, and we'll get them answered. And we miss doing the podcast. We can't wait to come back to you after our little break from work. So leave us your questions, and that means we can bring you more content over the next couple of weeks. What do you say about that, Jimmy? He's busy knitting. So enjoy this one-off pre-recorded episode, and we'll see you properly in a couple of weeks' time. Cheers, everyone. Bye. See you, Jimmy. Another set of 3 questions that have come in to the old inbox here. Question 1, Jimmy, from Nick. Oh, from he's down the road from you, Amsterdam. He says, so my Intarsia in the round only lets me do colour changes at set intervals. Well, I'm already lost, so good job we got Jimmy, the Intarsia expert here. Is it possible to make it dynamic? Whoa, I just said the words there. I have no idea what Nick actually means. It sounds cool, though. Dynamic and everything. Try and enlighten us, Jimmy, and help Nick if you can.
Sure. I'm going to try my best because I'm not sure I have the best answer for this, but
okay.
We can do it. I know that Sylvia Watts Cherry is an amazing knitter, and she sometimes does Intarsia classes, and I'm sure it's passed by now, but every once in a while she'll have like a knitting in the round class where she teaches, or knitting Intarsia in the round class, okay, and that you can learn from her. So keep an eye out for that. She did this Nubian Queen one that's like a classic, and it's like beautiful Intarsia, and I did her Paragon from Pom Pom Quarterly number or something. Anyway,
okay.
So she might be a good resource. There are also some on YouTube, but I'll have to get back to you about that because I've forgotten which ones those are. Regardless,
okay, no.
Intarsia. Intarsia is a method of knitting, which I am wearing an Intarsia sweater, where you knit in one color, drop the yarn, pick up a different color, drop the yarn, pick up a different color, drop the yarn, pick up a different color, drop the yarn. And so that is a way of doing color works without having to catch your floats. And then you can also do it, this is pretty rhythmic, what I'm wearing. This is my Metaphysics pattern. It is coming out in August. It's currently in testing. But this is pretty rhythmic, but there are some where you can put like a flower in there, or like a bee, or I think one time you said Thomas the Tank Engine's face, that sort of thing.
Yes, I love
it's like very 90s, 80s sort of knitting. So,
and I presume that the basics of it, I'm trying to say it from a non-Intarsia expert, is that you're on the, if it's flat, because that's how I've always seen it done, you're going to have bobbins or these little bits of cardboard with the yarn round it, because you keep changing it. So that's to stop having the floats and carrying them. So you could possibly have bobbins all over, because you need to go from, like Thomas the Tank, you need to go from his grey to his blue, and then the blue doesn't appear till later on, so you can have another bit of blue yarn over there. Is that right? Bobbins everywhere.
Yes, and I have an example to show you. So this has been put on hold for a little bit, but this is my Prada recreation sweater. And like Stuart said, I have a ton of bobbins for different colors and stuff.
I like that. Look at that.
It's a pain in the butt. I mean, it's not a pain in the butt, really, but it looks a little bit more stressy than it is. You just have to go with it with Intarsia. But so the deal is, Intarsia is usually knit flat, because you can see on here that, like, for example, this, if I knit it goes here, and then I drop the bobbin here, and then I pick up, let's say, this dark blue. Drop the bobbin here, pick up the blue, the gray, and then drop it there. So if I were to knit this in the round, I would start knitting from over here, but the bobbin would be over here.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So the knitting in the round, your yarn's basically on the wrong side. So what you typically do is you would take the bobbin and you would have like a float. And so you take like this much and make a float for it, and then knit across. But what you do is you knit on the way back, or when you knit again, you knit the float from previous, so you can get the color where you need it to be. I'm not quite sure if that made sense, but the idea is you like move the bobbin and then you knit the tail, or you move the bobbin, knit with it, and then knit the tail, that sort of thing. But that still constrains you to a certain width-ish, right? Like you can move a couple of stitches either side. It doesn't have to be straight up and down like this. It could be something like, where is it? Like this purple, where you go on the thing. So it doesn't have to be straight. So what I think he's asking is like, could my bobbin be like here in the round and then like knit something up here? And the answer is yes, but I think it would be difficult and you'd have a lot of yarn management. So I would definitely keep it to something within the realm of like the pattern, where it's somewhat close by to where the bobbin is, so that way you don't have these weird tails and cause tension issues, or you can snag it from the inside or something. I wouldn't go too far off. I would almost rather cut that and do that. There is a way where, and I think Max the Knitter in his, I forget what it's called, but he has this Intarsia pattern where it kind of looks like a lightning bolt.
On the
front.
Black and white, like a square, a rectangle, isn't it? In the middle of the lightning bolt. Seen that.
And that one's knit flat, but you can combine Intarsia and colorwork, which is what he did with that. Is like, because the Intarsia colorwork was just in this one central panel, what you do is you sort of like knit and then you colorwork, this 2x2 lightning bolt, and then you twist and then knit the end. And so you can do a sort of colorwork, stranded colorwork / Intarsia hybrid. to make it perhaps a bit more dynamic. But when it comes to knitting in the round, you're really limited by that extra tail length of the Intarsia strand in order to do it. So if you make it too dynamic, let's say, then it's going to start causing weird tension stuff, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's sort of a very advanced technique that you use for knitting Intarsia.
I've been nodding, but I think I glazed over about 2 minutes ago. But it's brilliant. It's great to have questions like that. The ex-teacher in me always wants to learn. So when I was reading that with, is it possible to make it dynamic? I'm like, oh, what is this? This is something new. And it's great. It helps to push our knowledge and understanding and to learn something new, or certainly to be open to it. So that's like opened my eyes for sure. Nick, I hope it's helped a bit. Otherwise, check out, who did you say that lady was again?
Sylvia Watts Cherry.
Okay.
She's amazing. She's this little Scottish old woman. I'm obsessed with these like little old knitting women who are so good at what they do.
Watch what you say with the old.
It's fantastic. Like her, Di Gilpin we talked about, Nancy Marchant. Yeah. Like those are like my knitting heroes. These women who just like know it all and can do it all. And I think Sylvia is a great Intarsia resource.
There is something about that skill, that artisan craft of years and years of experience that they've got under their belt. It is phenomenal what skills and they have for sure. Brilliant. Okay, Nick. Yeah, I hope that helps. Let us know. Drop us another question, or maybe even a picture of your finished Intarsia, whatever it is you're doing in the round. That'd be cool.
I think I know who Nick is. So Nick, if you're listening, we can clarify and we can discuss a little bit and maybe bring it back up and show some examples.
Absolutely. You know where he is on Instagram at Jimmy Does Knitting. Send him a message. Or if you're down the road, go knock on his door. Question 2, next one. Here we go. It's Jenny again. Good to have you, Jenny, listening. How do you pick up a dropped stitch from a few rows back without tinking back? And how does this change depending on whether you are doing stocking, garter or rib, please? Okay, Jenny. Yep, that's a good question. One, I have got some prepped here to show. Jimmy, it's easier to do it showing it, isn't it? Unless you can say it verbally very well, can you?
I mean, I am 100% sure I know what you're going to say. But just to discuss what the difference between what Stuart's going to do and what tinking back is. What tinking back is where you take it, you're knitting, essentially, and like stitch by stitch, you undo it on the needles. So I would undo stitch by stitch, row 1, 2, 3, until I got to the stitch. So it's taking out a lot of knitting, and tinking back takes a lot of time. Sometimes that's the necessary fix, but sometimes there's an easier way, which is what Stuart's going to say, which I'm assuming is just dropping a stitch, right?
Absolutely, yes. So let's go to the camera. If you're listening to this, it's probably not very good, but there you go. You might want to race home and watch it on YouTube and see the visual version of it. But I have got my knits currently. I have started a new cast on, Jimmy. I've cast on the Echo from Marcus.
Oh, you did it. Good job.
Look, my cables, everybody. So I'm very pleased with this so far. I've been doing this over the last couple of weeks. But Jenny, yes. For the purpose of this demo, where's the camera here? And let's just quickly zoom in a bit more because I think that will be nicer. I've got to boot that up. Should have had this ready. Sorry, everyone. Zoom. So we're assuming that this stitch here maybe has been dropped some time ago. like this. That's what I'm assuming. So Jenny's knitting along. She's like doing her pearls, and suddenly she's like, "Oh no! How did that one go there?" Okay, that's the first sort of assumption we will make. So we've got this drop stitch, and it can keep dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. Now, I'm on a purl side at the moment because I'm going to turn it over because it's actually easier to do it from the knit side. If you're looking at stocking stitch, it's definitely easier to fix a stitch and to pick up a drop stitch from the front side, from these lovely V's. And it really is quite simple when you know how. It's probably a bit scary at first, but the stitch that you have is literally a piece of yarn that's pulled through the hole. If you're a crocheter, you can get that idea, and that's where we have these handy hooks. And the stitch that goes through the hole is these ladders here, which may be a bit daunting at first, but you can see there that stitch is still safe, can't go anywhere else at the moment. And then I have these two ladders. This stitch has to work its way up to the top, and when you're looking at the V's like that, as we are, stocking stitch, you pull the ladders or the bridges, whatever you want to call them, towards you through the loop on your hook. And this is where the crochet hook is really handy. So you're just going to grab it and pull it through and go up like that. Sometimes the crochet hook gets a bit fiddly. Then work your way up the ladder, grab the next ladder and pull it through towards you. And there you go. We're now at the top, ready. If you haven't got a crochet hook, you can just do this. So there's your yarn, the stitch that's slipping down. You can actually put it on your hook, get the bridge on your hook, and then slip the stitch over like that if you want to do it that way. It is completely up to you. Let's knock it down again. You could be doing it from the purl side.
So this is really good for ribbing, because ribbing essentially is what you're doing. It's either just a knit or a purl. You're suggesting to go to the knit side for everything, but for the purl side, I mean, it's the same thing. I'm assuming you're going to show fixing a purl, but you can either do fix the purl as is, which is not difficult, or you could just switch back and forth to the ribbing side, because the opposite of a purl is a knit stitch.
Perfectly put. So yes, you might just want to swap your work round like that. So rather than trying to fix the purl from the purl side, turn it round to look at the rear of it, for sure. Brilliant point. But if you do want to fix your purl, because it's good to know the anatomy of a knit anyway, you've got to remember a knit. And if we look at, or a stitch, let's go to the top again. The anatomy of a stitch, you have your stitch there, and you have the two V's on the front. Let's try and go a bit flatter. You have your two V's on your front, and then the back of the stitch, remember, think of it like a scarf that sits on your shoulders, is in essence the purl bump. That's what's sitting on the back. So that is important to know, because when you're fixing a purl, come back to that stitch again, you're looking at that scarf bit that's sitting on your back, and therefore, because we're looking at the back side, the bridges are going to be on your side closest to you. So remember, we actually fixed a knit by putting the hook in, didn't we, and pulling the yarn towards us. But from the back side, like I am, the purl you're not gonna do that. So it's just a bit of a faff. So you have to put your crochet hook in and then pull the yarn away from you. But if you think about it, if you were sat on the other side, the mirror side, you are literally just doing what we just did. Do you see that, Jenny? So this is the knit, so we're putting it in and pulling the bridge towards us. But if you're on the other side, that's the purl. And I've got loads of stitches dropped there now. But don't worry, because we now know how to fix it, don't we? There was one issue though, Jimmy, that I'm just a little bit concerned about. Sometimes you might, that's just a simple drop stitch. You drop the stitch and you're like, I've got to pick it up. But sometimes you might have dropped a stitch ages ago. So say right down at the bottom here. So say this stitch was dropped down and down and down and down. But you might not have known you've dropped it. And as you then knitted, you tied it up. So that's a really bad visual there. But imagine this stitch. You didn't know you dropped it, and somehow you just carried on knitting. So Jimmy, if you were to drop down, you couldn't really fix it, could you? Because there are no bridges there. So do you see what I'm trying to say? I don't know whether I've made that a bit muddled now.
I think I know what you're trying to say. The answer is there are bridges between every stitch.
Yeah.
Regardless. So it might be a little tighter. You're saying that the tension between the two is not big enough for the stitch.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, it will be a bit tight. But you can still, there's ladders between every stitch. Like when people go knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, there's always like, they have a problem with their ribbing with the stitches looking wonky. But there are ladders that you can tighten and stuff. So what you do is you just take advantage of those ladders and then you go up. So yes, that stitch might be a little tighter for that portion, but it's totally possible to still bring it up.
Okay, so there you go, Jenny. You don't have to frog all the way back there then, do you? I think what is good, Jenny, and for anyone who's listening, is just get a swatch. Just get a swatch with load that's on a waste yarn and make this swatch and purposely play around with dropping a stitch and running it down as a ladder and just practice picking it up. Because once you've done that and you've gone past that, I've dropped a stitch, and because we all do it when we first drop it, we panic, we think the whole knit is ruined. But until you actually do it and practice doing it, you then like, oh, actually, this is really easy to fix. And then in turn, you become a better knitter, because if something does go wrong later on and you drop a stitch, it doesn't actually matter at all, because you just go, I'll just get my crochet hook out, boom, 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 because you know how to fix a knit, you know how to fix a purl. It's slightly different if you're perhaps doing fisherman's rib and things like that, because the bridges are going to be different and different ways and different approaches, especially if you've got make ones. Imagine dropping down a column where there's a make one as well, then it does get a bit more difficult, and then that may be when you want to actually frog back or tink back. But in most cases, if you know how to pick up a stitch with your crochet hook like that, you can ladder down quite successfully, pick it up, and it will, after a wash, it will all be even and you wouldn't even notice. So it's a good thing to learn, I think, Jimmy, without sounding too patronising. It is, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I normally do it, I don't always catch, because I don't look at my knitting very carefully when I knit. So sometimes I don't always catch the plies. And if that's the case, I have to do that too. It's not a drop stitch, but it's the same thing where not all of the yarn made it on to the next route. So sometimes I'll have to drop down like 8-10 stitches and then get all of the plies and bring it up. But it's super easy, super quick, and it's nothing to be afraid of.
Perfect. There you go. Brilliant. So Jenny, I hope that answers your question. So yes, you won't have to tink back 4 or 5 rows. Get your crochet needle out. Have a pack of crochet needles that live in your your knitting gear, like I've got these are great, but have a pack of crochet hooks, and then you'll never have a problem. And then, as I say, have a swatch ready for practicing, and then that'll take off the panic. And you'll just be like, yay, I'm a surgeon. I can pick this up, which is what I do with any of the ladies' stuff at the shop, Jimmy. They panic, I've dropped a stitch, and I go, don't worry, I'll just get my crochet hook out. And they're like, oh, wow. However, there is one problem. I do still struggle, Jimmy, with garter stitch. That still fuddles my brain a bit because you've got a purl and a knit, haven't you? Oh no, because it's knit. So sometimes I have to keep, because you know, twisting it around and, oh no, what have I just done? So that does tax the brain, doesn't it, with garter stitch?
Yeah, it's a little bit more brain foggy, but it's just a knit over a purl over a knit over a purl. So if you can get the rhythm down, sometimes there's the double-ended crochet hooks, which are really good for garter because you can just almost weave it a little bit better. I think that's also a solution. I don't use a crochet hook. Like we said on previous, I don't believe in crochet hooks. I just use my needles. But yeah, whatever works best for you.
I love it. Okay, Jenny, good luck with that. Okay, last question. A great question here. Long. Brace yourself. Okay. Suppose you find a plain sweater you like and would like to make it again, but would like to design your own by changing up the stitches. Oh, I'm liking this. Would it be as simple as to change the stitches and add patterns by adjusting stitch numbers, or is it more complicated than that? Should you choose a design that has an equivalent stitch count to be safe? Should you just try to find a pattern already designed that comes close to your version? What do you take into consideration to bring your own idea to fruition? Whew, blimey, questions galore. Okay, well let's tack the basics. So this plain stocking stitch jumper, and Jane wants to change it. Can she simply change it by choosing, oh, that's a nice stitch, say from one of those stitch dictionaries, and there's a pattern? Can she just simply do that?
I mean, yes, you can do anything you want, and I think that's a really good start to being creative. You don't have to worry about any math. You can just pick a stitch that you like. The Tolsted tee by Rebecca Clow is always a really good example of that. It's a really simple like raglan tee, and there are 1,000 different versions, and a lot of times people put in like eyelets or stripes or something like that, and they modify that pattern quite a bit, and it works out fine. Cool. So okay. I would say if you're changing out the stitch, that's a really good way to start, because then you can just kind of play with that. What I will say is stitches are not made equal. So a really good example of that is like is it the Ingrid by Petite Knit? It's sort of like a Guernsey Gansey style thing with there's like a rib, and then there's like a lattice stitch, and then there's moss stitch or something like that. If you look at that, and if you especially look at the unblocked photos of people like that, it kind of goes like this, because stitches have different widths and different properties to them. So I would say in general, playing with the stitches is not going to make a big difference. But if you were to take that stocking stitch sweater and then make it all rib, it's going to be a different size.
Yes, I can fully see that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. What else did she say? Should you choose a design that has an equivalent stitch count to be safe? I suppose that's taking into a big change, though, if you're doing that, isn't it?
I would say that going around the same numbers is all right. You can flex here and there. So if your stitch pattern that you want to do doesn't fit with the exact stitch count that they have, you can usually easily make a modification to do it like a couple stitches bigger or smaller, and then the sweater will flex. I mean, obviously the ease will change slightly, But I think that that's all right, especially if you have something that fits you well, or you like how the instructions are. That's all right. I would not worry about modifying the stitch number so much.
Okay. She does say there about, well, if I can't work it out myself, so I'll try and find a pattern that is similar to what I envisaged. Whilst that is a lovely idea, you could be looking a long while though, Jane, couldn't you? Don't you think, Jimmy, that's a lovely concept, but does not that doesn't come along all the time, does it? A pattern that you like the look of.
I mean, it really depends. Like, it could be as simple as, I mean, not as simple, but like if you want to make an Aran sweater, but you don't like the cables, it's totally possible to use that same stitch count for the cable and change it out for a different cable. Or same thing with like the center motif of an Aran sweater. If it's close but not exactly what you want it to be, change it. You are making a custom garment. You are spending so much time, and so much money on this thing that like a little change like that would be very easy to do, and you would have less thinking to do than if you were to just go from a stocking net to something all over patterned.
A couple of my ladies at the shop have pretty much done this, Jane, with regard to a simple stocking stitch. So Aileen, on a Wednesday morning, it was a simple stocking stitch cardigan. And she was like, oh, that's a bit too boring for me. That'll send me to sleep. I need something to keep me awake. So she went through one of these little stitch dictionaries, and it just stopped the stocking stitch from looking really boring, because she didn't want to do a stocking stitch cardi. And these little pearl bumps that just appeared was delightful. And because the pattern was based, say, on 6 stitches, Aileen was able to work out how that would fit in with her, say, 80 stitches on her front. That's quite doable when you do something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a perfect way to start. It makes it more interesting for you. You get to be a little creative. You can test out some design stuff, and it gets you a garment that you like more.
Absolutely. I'll have to try and get some pictures to put it in, because it really did make the difference. And then Aileen was, I've just made this completely up. She took my standard pattern that she was using and just zhuzhed it up a bit, which is lovely. And now she's going back to that dictionary to look at lots of other different ones to do the same pattern again and again and again, but with nicking a different sort of stitch technique. So yes, Jane, I love it. So maybe you should just get creative, go for it. But as Jimmy said, maybe not with doing a stocking stitch and suddenly putting in. Oh, sorry, wrong question. Sorry, that's not Nick. Then suddenly putting in loads of rib, because as you say, that changes the structure as well as the look, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, there we are, Jane. Let us know how you get on. That's another episode done. Keep sending your questions in. Any questions that you want, Jimmy? Is there anything that you think, I wouldn't mind getting my teeth into that style question?
Oh, I haven't thought about that. I mean, we can get pretty technical on here if you want. It doesn't have to be all very basic, unless it's crochet. I'm not a big crocheter, but I mean, I'm happy to discuss whatever. We've talked about yarn store visits. We've talked about Intarsia in the round. We've talked about how to fixture knitting. So it spans everything. And I suppose that we could also share, different things of different sort of things, like wool specifically.
Absolutely.
Since you're in the yarn shop, and what's good for different things, or if you have a pattern that you like and you just have questions about it, let us know.
Absolutely. The link is in the description below. We often post it as well on Instagram. So send us your questions, whatever they may be. We love to answer them, and keep you company wherever you are when you listen to this. Whether you're walking the dog, out for a walk, maybe you get your steps in every day because you go to the gym and you've got us on, or you're sat at home watching us on YouTube. Always lovely to hear. Lovely to have your company. Thanks, Jimmy. And until next time, we'll see you again for another episode of Untangled. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.